Hello and welcome to this video on making bonsai raft. This style of bonsai does not float on water, but is instead a symbolic representation of how your fir forest is supported from a backbone made from the trunk of an existing tree. It is a way to create a semi-forest without the need for many trees and without the difficulty of planting these trees. A raft may also be used to salvage a damaged tree or to use unsuitable stock, especially those with branches growing to only one side. The raft style emulates what would happen to a tree that has been blown over in the wind or knocked down due to a landslide. The trunk is buried under the dirt and the branches rise above the soil to create a new series of trees. To achieve this style, you begin with your tree as a whip or existing stock that needs to be repurposed. Remove all branches from what will be the underside of the planting and wire normally. Careful attention must be given to remove wire when you first transplant this into the ground. If you do not do so, it may become entangled. This will become an issue for the new root system. In severe cases, it may act as a tourniquet and prevent flow of sap and nutrition along the entire trunk. This will result in dieback. Begin your tree by pruning back any branches that are present or you do not want in the long term. This creates something like a porcupine, with branches poking up. This alone would not be enough to create the new root mass under your tree. The simplest technique for forming roots is relatively simple and straightforward. Remove the bark and, along the way, cut into the trunk itself to create flaps. This is the same method you would use for grafting branches, but rather than branches, you are trying to encourage more root bud formation. If your tree is one that is slow to develop roots, you may wish to wedge these flaps open with a small rock, a significant amount of growth hormone, or something similar that will prevent the gap from closing over and the tree from healing. In other instances, such as this tree, you can get away with simply exposing the cambium. In most cases, it is best to plant the tree out into a growing field, a large pot or foam container. This is because the tree needs more nutrition from the rich environment and room to promote growth than what is available in a bonsai pot and potting mix. If you have time and patience, you may choose to grow it directly in your bonsai pot, but this will take longer. A wire should be placed over the existing root ball and along the trunk. This is then tightened securely. As with most bonsai trees, you are wiring in the pot, both to prevent movement and damage to the root mass. As you are trying to grow new roots from the trunk, these new shoots will be delicate, and therefore they need to be protected with this particular method. To facilitate growth of the root from the right place, try not to cover the entirety of the top of the trunk. Over time, this example here will compact slightly, and the soil will recede from the top of the trunk. This will encourage two things. First, growth of the root mass under the trunk and along its length. It will also help to ensure the tree remains securely fitted to the pot it's in. Before you get to the point where you put your tree into its large pot or similar, you should try to remove a significant portion of the root ball. Up to half is ideal. Anything less, and your tree may rely too heavily on the original root mass. If you take too much more, the tree may not receive enough nutrition initially, and, in a best case scenario, dieback will occur. In a worst-case scenario, the entire tree may die. Put the tree along with its root ball into the pot. Cover the root ball with soil. Your tree should be kept in here for between 1 and 2 full growing seasons. You will need to fertilize and water it regularly. This may take longer in some cases, but in most instances, after this initial period of recovery and growth, you can begin to style your tree in detail. From the example here, you can see there are up to 7 main trunks that will develop over time. As you style your raft, the tree will need to be weaned from its original root ball. This is the most challenging part, as you will want to balance the draw of energy and nutrition from the root ball and new growth. This is done by slowly diminishing the mass of the original root ball, eventually severing it entirely. One advantage to this method is that it leaves your tree biased in how you position it in the pot, meaning that as per the more standard rules of bonsai styling, your tree sits more to one side than the other. This particular style is well suited to those that have quick rooting systems. Hedging plants are a common example, as are junipers. You can develop soil varieties, but you need to take care. Generally, you should allow for a 2 to 4 year growth period before you begin to look at doing anything with your raft, particularly before you start removing roots from the original ball. This will allow it to recover adequately. If you are following the grow frame process, you'll want to transfer your tree into a bonsai pot. The choice is yours, but you will often find a simple pot with a little depth is a very good choice. Often these will be square or rectangular in shape. In some instances, you can get away with something with very little depth. From here, you just need to fertilize, water, and maintain your tree. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.